recording this meeting throughout just so that everybody can have access to it. We'll post it on our website, as I'm sure there'll be some questions asked. And secondarily, just a quick introduction. So my name is Cole Miller. I'm the program analyst here with America Makes NCDMM. I help run the proposal process in the background. If you reach out to the project call email address in the future with questions or anything, that'll come directly to my inbox. So I'm actually going to flip this over now to Ben DeMarco, who will lead off the technical portion of this.
Thanks, Cole. Is everyone seeing my screen clearly?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Nice to see some familiar faces. Thank you all for joining this Industry Day kickoff presentation. My name is Ben DeMarco. I'm the Technology Transition Director here at America Makes. My email is below. Feel free to connect with me, but as Cole said, questions related to the project should be sent to the project call email in the RFP. So we'll go work through these slides. A little bit of a background, and these slides will be posted after today's meeting, so just feel free to wait for this. At the end, there'll be a copy uploaded to the website. The projects and topics in this call were a result, an effort of prioritization from the America Makes RMAG, the Roadmap Advisory Group, and their associated working groups under the RMAG. So there's 5 working groups, which are design, process, material, value chain, and AM genome. Earlier this year, there were several meetings among these working groups over a 2-month period where they generated a list of topics of priorities around inspection and monitoring important technologies and gaps. They put together a survey and they distributed this around to the different working group members. We received over 70 responses from the survey, and the results were shared with the JAMWIG, the Joint Additive Manufacturing Working Group. So these are our government colleagues on the other side, and this was presented to them earlier this year. So that's kind of I'll say the background of how the topics came about. The objectives of the project call are strongly to demonstrate lead time and cost improvements for parts that are made with laser powder bed fusion and or directed energy deposition. Or the emphasis is to use both in situ and ex situ non-destructive inspection methods and approaches. The topics that I'll go over on this call will talk about the different approaches for in situ versus ex situ. Teams are encouraged to consider new or advanced methods to non-destructively inspect large-scale AM parts. They're targeting a reduction of 50% NDI costs over current methods and technologies. End goal, to accelerate adoption and transition of these monitoring inspection methods and techniques for AM. America Makes is seeking the most mature forms of NDI processes that are close to commercial implementation. So again, the RFP states TRL 4 to 7, but please consider this last bullet point here, the maturation level of what you would propose. So there's 3 topics. The first topic is cost-effective methods for NDI of large AM parts, so non-destructive inspection. The second topic is the same, but a focus on inspection and qualification of complex AM parts. The third is meant to be an industry transition team that operates in parallel with the 2 topics, and then will extend for an additional 12 months after the period of performance for topics 1 and 2. So we'll go into a little bit more of each of these on the coming slides. Topic 1 focuses on development and maturation of novel methods for NDI of parts produced using LPBF or DED. Again, this is stressed in the RFP, cost greater than 50% over currently available technologies. If that's unachievable, teams are encouraged to explain their target percent reduction. So if 50% cannot be achieved, you should put what your target value is for cost reduction. Materials of interest for topic 1 include Ti-6-4, Inconel 718, stainless steels, but they're not limited to these. So I would just encourage you, whichever material that you do provide or list, please explain your logic or your reason for if it's titanium, Inconel, or stainless. A few bullet points I added that I want to draw specific attention to detail on are the baseline tasks. Teams must consider these in the RFP pages 9 and 10 in their scope of work in their proposals. In addition to that, there's a minimum set of expected deliverables for this topic, and those are covered on RFP pages 19 to 22. It's going to be the same deliverable list for topics 1 and 2, but there will be a separate deliverable table for topic 3, which I'll talk about. Topic 2, again, is focused on inspection and qualification of complex AM parts. Again, focusing on parts that are using structures such as topology optimized part boundaries, complex repeating geometries, internal features which are small, but not limited to less than 5 to 10 millimeters in size. Teams and this topic should focus on advancing the state of art of in situ geometric validation to these small length scales. And as well, translating or taking information collected, geometric information collected for mechanical deformation predictions. I'm not going to read this full sentence here, but if you can collect data and information and translate it to your modeling methods and a resultant prediction, this is going to help those that are looking to remove or obtain features that are worst case prediction and using in deformation behavior. Similar to the previous page, topic 2 also must consider the baseline tasks in their scope of work. And the minimum deliverable table is the same for this topic. Topic 3, the industry transition team, the ITT, is focused on accelerating the adoption, transition, and implementation of advanced monitoring and non-destructive inspection methods for AM. This team is, as I mentioned at the beginning, is meant to build upon the advancements made under topics 1 and 2, but it's also going to be looking at relevant efforts and recommending best practices for transition. This team has a role to connect with America Makes projects, external resources, standards development organizations, as well as industry end use needs to identify and scale inspection and monitoring practices. Any team submitting to topic 3, their core charter must be focused on transition. If the title doesn't say it, it's here in the last bullet point. We need to understand scalable usage of new techniques and drive industry adoption and recommendations. There's a separate minimum deliverable table for this topic on pages 23 and 24. Please review them and consider them in your submissions. On the programmatic side, we announced this project call earlier this month. Important to note that questions are due on May 15th. There is an email, a project call email in the RFP. Please submit your questions officially through that project call email. You won't get an immediate response, but Cole will receive it and we will come back to the proposers with answers to those questions on May 22nd. Focused on NDA, if there's proprietary information, must be completed by June 16th. And if you are not American Makes member, the lead proposer must be. And they must be paid in full and have a fully executed membership by June 17th. If you have questions on your current membership, please reach out to our membership team, which is Lori Watugal and Zane Ross. Please connect with them and check on your membership. Don't wait until the 17th to do this. Please check on it after this call if you're unsure of your current membership status. Submissions are due on June 30th, and 1 month after, we anticipate to have a decision and selection of the projects. Topics 1 and 2 have equal funding. There will be 2 awards, each at 1.1 million for both topics 1 and 2. So a total of 4 awards is anticipated for topics 1 and 2. Topic 3, federal funding award amount is $600K, and there will only be 1 award for topic 3. All of these projects must have 50% cost share. I put this bullet point in here because it's only specific to topic 3. Budgetary proposals are to be structured in 2 phases. Each phase is limited to a maximum of $300K. We put further information in the RFP on pages 12 and 13. Focused on the period of performance, topics 1 and 2, again, running the same length of time, 15 months total. 12 months execution, 3 months of reporting. That 3 months is really meant for the reporting. Topic 3, again, will run in parallel with both topics 1 and 2. So the first 12 months, topic 3 will be pacing with topics 1 and 2, and then it will go on for a second phase of an additional 12 months that focuses on transition. I mentioned it, there is a specific set of tasks for topic 3. Please read them in the minimum deliverables table. Shorter periods of performance and dollar values are acceptable on this case. There's some language in the RFP around CEA or LSI, Cognizant Engineering Authority or Lead Systems Integrator. We've put this in some recent project calls. In this project call, at least 1 proposal team member should have CEA. It doesn't have to be the lead proposal submitter, but at least 1 person on the team has to have this. Or have specific design authority over defense-related components. Team members that have CEA over a dual use or commercially developed component with potential defense relevance are considered eligible. If it's not a defense component, the dual use proposer should clarify how their part, their application, their testing would be relevant defense applications. I give the example, if you're using a pump, maybe in a certain industry and it's relevant to the Navy, but it's not being used for the Navy, please clarify that. Please share information on that. That's just an example. But again, I highlighted this in yellow. Teams are encouraged to highlight how their team will coordinate with the CEA or the LSI and how this will impact transition. We put more definitions on these on page 25 of the RFP. Talked about this a little bit before. Membership, lead proposer must be an American Makes member and paid in full by June 16th. The project team members under the lead team are not required to be American Makes members, but are encouraged to do so. There's more information about membership. And again, if you have questions, please reach out to the membership team. There's a contact us section on the website. Important to note, any non-American Makes members in the effort are not permitted to participate in the project team discussions until completing a membership agreement. And foreign participation approval process requires a minimum of 3 weeks. So if you have someone outside of the United States, you must submit this and clarify this in your proposal. I'm going to go into the cost share a bit. Cost share on this project can be applied towards membership with other project calls. Cost share proposed on future projects cannot be counted toward new American Makes members. To become a member by the deadline, organizations shall commit a cash payment and or complete a program MOU, Memorandum of Understanding. Again, work with the membership team on this if you have questions. 50% cost share is required for the submittal. So if $1 is given from America Makes and the government, 50% cost share must be committed. So a total scope of $1.50. Not going to read all these bullet points verbatim, but again, I've stressed this. The lead proposer is fully responsible for the project and subcontractor performance. The lead proposer shall be a U.S. Systems for Award Management, SAM, and have a cage code and UEI number for submitting it. And there are instructions where this needs to be included in the RFP. Proposal team acknowledges information the project will be shared with America Makes members in accordance to the membership agreement. And any proposal team arrangements must be identified. Relationships are fully disclosed. Again, I'm not going to go through all the countries listed, but any foreign nationals on the project within the proposed technical approach. Any project activities outside of the U.S. must be reported and approved in advance by the America Makes Program Office. There are countries that are not allowed to participate. Again, I'm not going to read the entire list, but please reference these in the RFP. I stressed some of the importance of the deliverables for each topic. They are, again, there's specific deliverables for each topic. And there's a list of reporting requirements. These are called out in sections 2.3 or 2.4 and 4.3 of the RFP. We tried to give you pages to be helpful when looking for these. Proposals will be graded on a specific set of criteria. Executive summary is not scored, but it is a part of the overall summary of the proposal. Technical approach and methodology is 30%, data management plan 20%, technology dissemination to America Makes members and impact to DoD 30%. There is new bullet points in the technical approach and the technology dissemination sections as they focus on transition as well as these new inspection technologies. So please consider this, that they will be evaluated. The program management approach is 20%. And then the cost. It must be shared and reported, but they're not scored. And they are a part of the overall value proposition of the proposal. Proposal contracting information. Summaries must contain information that's publicly releasable and non-proprietary. The reason we do this is so we can work through the public release process for award announcement, as well as demonstrate and showcase the impact and merits of the Institute's efforts to the public. No fee is allowed on this project. The cover page, as I mentioned, has to have your UEI and your cage, and at least the team lead. Teams must submit additional information to accelerate contract. So there's subrecipient agreements included in the RFP. Please look at these. They must be reviewed and requested changes be sent in the proposal. No response certifies agreement as upon award. Otherwise, award will be canceled. That's it. Let's go to questions.
So we have some
Cole, are we
questions
gonna
in the
read the
chat.
questions from the chat or?
Yep, I'm gonna go ahead and read some here, Ben. So the first one from Leon Hill. So for DED, which I believe this is related to topic one, are in situ methods acceptable, or is it strictly ex situ, or is it both?
Yeah, so let me go back to the topic page just a second. All right. The question is, are in situ methods considered for DED? Is that the question?
Correct.
They wouldn't be unconsidered, but again, the focus on this topic, it's inspection of large parts, so it must be explained.
Yes, I don't quite understand. If we propose something for large scale DED, it would be okay to propose something that was strictly in situ, or would we have to propose something that is in situ and ex situ?
We will confirm with our government team on explicit if it has to include both or if it's allowed to be one versus the other. I understand your question more clearly now. Let us make sure and confirm with the government team on answering that one. Does that sound okay, Cole?
Yep, I'm writing it down here. I captured
Yeah.
that question.
Leon,
Thanks,
good
guys.
question. Thank you for that. We'll make sure we get an explicit answer on that and we'll post it.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks for coming off mute and making it more clear.
So the second from Emily is, are there particular NDI methods being looked at?
Could she go deeper into the question? I mean, I feel like that's a pretty broad question. I would just say any NDI methods that are relevant to laser powder bed fusion and or DED. That's how it's a broad question. So if it's relevant to laser powder bed fusion and DED, then I would say yes.
Okay, she got a clarification. So there are the ones that are preferred over others.
I would just stress the importance of cost-effective methods. And if you have a method that you believe can impact cost greater than 50%, that is the preference. So you should focus on, is your method effective? And we spell this out in the RFP for cost, and as well as detection capability.
The third question, I believe this has been asked twice, is are you able to provide more detail on what is defined as a large part? Because we have it in there about a small part, but what about a large part?
I like this question. I would ask this question. So thank you, whoever submitted it. Do we have a minimum to classify it as a large part? Currently, I would say no, we don't have a minimum of what would be considered large. But Cole, let's please write this one down to see if we have any minimum set of requirements from our government team. And if you're listening, if you're looking for what is the minimum requirement for it to be considered large, or I'm guessing that's what the question is.
Yeah, essentially how large is considered large.
Okay.
This is a few centimeters, meters.
I was one of the people who asked the question, and I would say, how do we define large, or is that something that's expected to be in our proposal? We're going to say this is large because it won't fit in our CT scanner or something rather arbitrary, or it won't fit in an M290, but it will in a M400, something like that.
Yeah, I
How
understand.
do we make that distinction?
Yeah. In my mind, I have a number of what a size would be to be considered large, but I don't want to share that now just because I want to consult with our team and make sure we agree on that, what is considered large number. But yes, I would I would encourage the proposers to explain why they believe, or the part that they're choosing to inspect, why it is considered large. I think that is a valid point, Scott. Thank you. But yeah, Cole, let's put a follow-up to see if we can give a minimum requirement for large.
I'm just kind of wondering, if it's not small, does that mean it's large? Right?
Yes.
Right. So Antonio asked what is meant by technical dissemination. So under the eval criteria, technology dissemination to American makes members and impact to DoD.
Yeah. So my question, or what I would just quickly speak to, if that was Tony, I would encourage him to check that section for evaluation criteria. So we put several bullet points in the RFP, which you can download online, that give how these are evaluated. But Cole, I have an answer to this, and I would encourage you to check the RFP. But ultimately, whatever you're doing, it can't exist in a vacuum. It needs to go outside of that project team and make an impact to the membership as well as DoD. But again, there's specific bullet points, Tony, in the RFP that show how this is evaluated. Cole, are you satisfied with that answer?
Yep, I would say to lean on the RFP, and yeah, if you have questions, Tony, reach out to that project call email, and we can provide more of like a detailed written response on it.
Yeah. If you open it and you read through the bullet points and you still have a question, please submit it officially and we'll answer it. But we try to do our best to make the answer or the evaluation criteria is clear for all submitters.
So Dan asks, are government agencies such as NASA eligible for partnering on this program and to receive funding as part of the team? I can take that one. Due to the contracting structure, they're able to participate in the team, but they are not able to receive federal funding. Their participation would come as cost share, or I believe the federal agencies call it leverage. But we are not able to give federal funding essentially back to the government. All right, so we have a question to clarify on the eligibility, the CEA LSI. So they ask, what is the requirement?
So the requirement specifically is one team member should have CEA or LSI. You could have a lead proposer that is not a CEA, and then you could have a supporting organization who is, they're a sub. You could have a lead that is a CEA and they have a series of subs or they go alone. But the requirement is at least one team member should have CEA or LSI or design authority. Other questions, Cole?
Yep, so I'm bringing it up here. So Steve asked, do we have specific inspection methods in mind as the quote, currently available methods and technologies? If not, should they be defining that in their submission?
Yeah, teams should define that in their submission. I think if we go back to, and I'll just go back to this really quick, Cole. America Makes is seeking the most mature forms of NDI processes that are close to commercial implementation. So it would be on the proposers to explain how this is possible in their submission.
Next question is, are there specific metrics for mechanical deformation predictions in topic 2? The RFP highlights institute-specific tasks only.
I don't know if John Martin's on. I think we should table this question, Cole, on the metrics.
Great. So next question is, are there specific machine makers that the laser powder bed DED is to be proven on?
Yeah, so that question is, it's completely up to the proposers. I would, again, circle this comment. Most mature forms of NDI processes that are close to commercial implementation. So I think that should be considered and defined in their proposal.
All right, so Matt Lynch asked, in the baseline task list for topic 2, the word flaw is used. Could we clarify what type of flaw is being targeted in the particular topic?
Again, in my mind, I have an answer of what the definition of flaw is, but I would like to just make sure we're clear on our answer. So I'm going to table that for the official response in the official question page, Cole. Those on the call that know me, I don't want to openly share my thought or opinion without talking to our government team, the advisors on the project, as I mentioned at the beginning, the JAMWIG, the OSD. So I want to make sure we give a clear and concise answer on that question. But Brian, appreciate it. Cole will write it down, and we'll put an answer in the questions page.
Right, Aaron, you have a question on the fully paid America Makes member. I'm gonna table that on here and we'll formulate a response for the website, just because I'll need to check with our membership and contracting team both, to kind of get you a complete and full answer on that.
Yeah.
So Ben Connors is asking on page 19, software and algorithm integrated processes procedures, what does it mean? Is the ask to provide the method or is the ask for the software code?
Let me pull it up and just read it really quickly. You said page 19, Cole?
Yes.
Okay, I understand the question. Is they asked to provide the method or is they asked to provide the software code? So I'm going to answer this judiciously and say if the code that you create is developed during the project, it would be consortium developed IP. If you come to the project with background code, it needs to be disclosed in the exhibit of pre-existing IP. But the ask would be, and this is a part of dissemination, if the code is unusable after you complete your period of performance, it diminishes its value. So I think the answer is both. Does that make sense to the person who asked the question?
This is Ben. I'm the one that asked page 19 question. Yeah, basically, are you saying if we show up with an existing tool, we can execute on it and we're not handing out our code?
Yes, but you must disclose that. Cole, correct me if I'm wrong. It's Exhibit 5 for background IP.
Yes, I can actually verify that. I have the proposal up.
Yeah. So Ben, the question, just to reiterate it for those on the phone, if you show up with your own background code, it's already been invested and it works. You would disclose that as pre-developed IP, and you would not be required to share it. If you go into the project and you're developing new code, or new method, you should disclose that, and it would be a part of dissemination.
Okay, and that's page 5 where that's clarified.
It's Exhibit 1 is the existing or the background IP. That's page 47 of the RFP.
Yeah, and
All right.
I mentioned Exhibit 5, so maybe we could explain that one too, Cole, which is what you plan to develop. So it's both Exhibit 1 and Exhibit 5, Ben, that you would need to complete for that specific question.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Can I ask a follow-up question
Sure.
to this? So the scenario would be a little bit more complex here. So let's say we have a background code which we'll disclose, like you mentioned, and then we develop code that works on top of that. And it'll be so that the background code plus the new code works well together. But the new code itself could be provided, but it would be pretty much useless. How does that play? But the new altogether code could be commercialized as well, along with the background code. How would that play? It's a complex situation. That's why I wanted to ask.
Yeah, it's a good question, Cole, and I think we should write this one down so I felt like Ben's question was answerable through, yes, and go to these two exhibits. I feel like this question we should formulate an official response and put on the website. So
yeah,
Cole,
this will be helpful for other project calls as well.
I was just
Yeah.
thinking, SK, do you mind just emailing me that question and anything else you'd like to add to it? Because yeah, we can formulate that for a more formal response and maybe stick it under our like frequently asked questions that always get carried over to every RFP.
Absolutely.
And I mean, again, for some of these questions, I have a thought, but I want to be cautious with sharing that because I think, I'm an engineer and a scientist. I'm not a legal lawyer. I don't want to just tell you what I think, SK and Cole. So I think this is one we table and we put in the questions section. So Cole, if you need SK to submit that, I think that's the ask to you, SK, is try to submit that officially to the project call email. Thank you.
All right, I believe I got all of the questions in the chat currently.
Hey, Cole,
Yeah.
can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you, Jen.
Yeah, real quick on the there was a couple questions on like what's a flaw or different flaw sizes and stuff like that. So that's gonna we'll have a official answer go out on the website, but for now, just to give people an idea, that's gonna be basically dependent on whatever part or application you're targeting and what kind of use it's for. So we put a couple in the RFP. We could have put a couple references to some standards docs. They're more focused on durability and damage tolerance, but one's from NASA and one's a mill handbook. But they kind of just go into some of the processes that they've developed and used to identify like size, shape, orientation of a defect and how it could, when is it deemed a critical flaw size and when is it acceptable. So just to give people some kind of idea how that might work, but it's really going to be that's going to fold into whatever, it could be the printing technology they're using, the material, but more so what application your part, how it's going to be loaded and everything. And then
John, just to point people to the page, what John just mentioned, those documents and that guidance information is on page 11 of the RFP.
yeah, thanks, Ben.
Mhm.
So we put a couple sections in there. I would recommend, you don't have to read the whole document, but get familiar with the gist of it. We put a couple specific sections in there just to kind of look at and check the relevance of it for yourself and what your proposal is going to involve, but also the support team, the industry transition team. So we're expecting that some of those things are going to kind of be folded up into that as well, as far as what's considered an anomaly and it's okay, and what's considered a flaw and it's not okay, and different things like that. And then how that folds in with your in situ inspection, ex situ inspection, what's the probability of detection and different things like that. So just wanted to kind of throw that out there for a bit of an answer to give people an idea for now, that it's not going to be like any hard and fast numbers or descriptions for flaw size.
Good points, John.
Well, if you have any questions, if anybody has any questions after this webinar, just remember you can email projectcall@americamakes.us. That'll come to my inbox. Depending on the type of question, I can either answer it immediately, or other questions we will have to catalog and take back to our government partners, take to our internal tech team answer, and then those will be posted on the website on that date.
I'm putting the email in the chat so they have it.
Thank you, Ben. So we have a question from Brian Fisher. How specific does the component application and load case need to be? I'm assuming the intent is to avoid ITAR. I'm going to collect that question, Brian. That's one that we'll probably have to bounce off our government partners.
Yeah, I was just trying to read in very quick fashion the language that's in the RFP around ITAR. And Brian, I think Cole makes a good point. I don't want to answer yes or no, because there is an exhibit where if you have an ITAR part, it can be submitted and handled as such. So Cole, let's document it and table that one. Some good questions today.
Anybody, any additional questions?
Just as a reminder, Cole, if teams or submitters have questions, please submit them by May 15th. That's the deadline. So if you didn't ask a question today, it must be submitted to that email by May 15th. And then this recording and the slides will be uploaded to the website, which I'll put in the chat as well. So you'll have access to that after this is finished.
Could you bring up that deadline screen one more time, Ben?
Sure
With the
can.
dates. And Scott, that's on the website as well. Just for a future secondary reference.
Okay.
Right,
If there's
everybody.
no other questions, thank you all for attending. Appreciate the good questions. And we look forward to your submissions. Have a great afternoon. Thanks again.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.